looking at the analytics, I have come to realize that a lot of you are within the age range of those who are either coming out of school or going into school, or essentially in that moment of life where you're trying to explore the areas in which you are trying to go into. Which has brought me to make this video. Hello everybody, it's your friendly neighborhood INFP, and today I would like to tell you 10 life tips from an INFP, i.e. moi. Number 1. Things can move slowly. It may seem to you, and like it seems to me, that things are going quickly for everybody else. Everybody else is getting like the next big thing. Everybody else is showing the thing on social media. Everybody else seems to be living the life. Everybody else seems to have figured out how to get those finances in order, and you're just there going, what? Or some of you may not simply care about it all, but for a lot of you, things can seem like they're moving slowly. Like time itself is not being your friend. Like no matter what you do, it just seems that everybody else is succeeding and you're just there, stuck. And sometimes moving slower than other people is okay. Sometimes it is okay that things move slowly. And it is important to learn that things can move slowly, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Is it frustrating? Sure. But a bad thing? Not all of the time. So just take solace in the fact that, as it says in Ecclesiastes, there is a time and place for everything under the sun, and in the long run, it just may not be your time yet. Or maybe it will be your time soon. You never know. But just don't freak out too much about it. Number 2, you're not as bad as you think. You may be looking at yourself, you may be looking down at yourself, you may have taken what other people have said at you, and you have taken that as, what you are. You may see yourself as something that you're not. You may look at yourself and be like, I'm such a horrible person, or I suck at everything, or nothing is good enough, I'm not good enough, and you aren't as bad as you think you are. Things can happen, and things will happen. Life is rather unpredictable.
Life is pain, Highness. Anyone who says differently is selling something.
So just take solace that you aren't as bad as you think, because moving on to tip number 3, finding yourself can and will take time. As an INFP, finding myself is going to be a lifelong journey, and there's always new things that I'm learning about myself, especially due to Phi. Phi is always, for an INFP, especially tied in with me, it is always in that sense of trying to figure out who you are, trying to figure out what your meaning is, trying to figure out why you're here, trying to figure out your existence, trying to figure out what actually matters, trying to figure out how it matters to you. And some of this may be true for those of you out there, and that is perfectly fine. That's going to be a lifelong journey. Some of you may figure out what you need to know, and once you figured out what you need to know, you're like, okay, I'm good, I'm done, I can move on. And you do move on, and that is also okay. The point is that sometimes finding the things that you want to do, finding yourself, finding who you are, that isn't always apparent, and sometimes there are people even far older who still do not have the self-awareness of who they are, because they do not care about that self-awareness of figuring out who they are. They care about more other things than figuring out themselves. So if you haven't figured out yourself, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but for those of you who do seek to figure out yourself, which I would imagine since you're watching this, hey, it is okay, and there will come a time where you will figure yourself out to a greater extent than you do now. Tip number 4, and this is one that I have constantly needed to learn, is that it is okay to make mistakes. You don't grow without failing. You don't learn without making mistakes. You don't become better at things without trying them first. When you go into a job you do not know, you're going to make mistakes, but you're going to learn from those mistakes. You're going to grow from those mistakes. When you go into school and you make mistakes, you're going to learn from those mistakes. You're going to grow further from those mistakes. And sometimes, even if you actually don't give a crap of what school is teaching, there are certain things in school that you will learn, that you will make mistakes in, that you do care about, but hey, you will see that as a growing period, even though sometimes those mistakes absolutely suck and you really wish you hadn't made them. Especially if you have a perfectionistic viewpoint on things like I do and other people. Making mistakes sucks because you don't want to make mistakes. You want to be perfect immediately. You want people to love you immediately. You want things to be exactly like you want immediately.
You're a good student. You can do this. Oh, but what if I can't? You can. You just have to keep it together. Keep it together.
And that's not how life works. And you can't go further without learning and making those mistakes and learning what not to do. And while they are painful, it is a learning experience that in the long run, if you let it, it will help you grow and learn and become better than what you were. Which brings me to number 5. Perfectionism will hinder you. This is something I struggle with. I often don't want to do things because it's not perfect. I often struggle with starting things because it's not how I want it to be. I have often struggled making videos because I'm like, no, I'm not in the right setting, or I'm not outside, or it's raining, or there are people around and I don't want to do this when there's people around, or it's not in the perfect place that I want it to be, or oh no, this food isn't perfect and this isn't perfect. And because things aren't the level of perfect that you want them to be, you can't go ahead. That is your block, because that perfectionism there is blocking you from breaking through it and just starting and just going and just learning from your mistakes. That perfectionism is there hindering you and preventing you from being better and just starting, no matter how bad it may be at the start. When I first started doing videos on another now deleted channel, those videos at the beginning were horrible. Heck, even the videos on this channel were horrible at the start. I mean, some of them were a lot more horrible, but my point is that perfectionism will look at the things, look at the stuff that isn't perfect, and will tell you, you shouldn't do this because it's not perfect. You shouldn't cook that food because it isn't perfect. You shouldn't learn that thing because you can't do it perfectly the first time. It is that thing that leads you and can cause you to procrastinate. Which brings me to point number 6. Learn how to procrastinate efficiently. Now, this may sound kind of dumb, or it may sound kind of genius. I don't know, but a lot of people tend to do this, is they procrastinate by doing other stuff. Some people procrastinate by doing nothing, but in the procrastination system in which you actually do other things, you are actually accomplishing something. You're just not necessarily accomplishing the thing that you may need to be doing. Heck, you may even have put off some other stuff and now you're getting onto them and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to go and do this thing instead of this thing that I really need to do or really want to do, because I don't want to do like the stuff that I don't like doing part of it, because, you know, in anything that you do, there's always going to be a part that you don't like. And so you may be like procrastinating and go, okay, well, I'm going to do something that I do like or don't hate as much, or just don't feel like it. And if you're able to utilize that procrastination in an efficient manner, where you're able to either take breaks, and there is like a bunch of videos out there that show you how to, you know, take breaks and like reward yourself and like give yourselves like those short increments in which, you know, your procrastination is like, oh, okay, if I do a little bit of this and then I can rest and do whatever, or oh, I get to do this and rest and whatever. Or heck, you can even do the system that a lot of us do, is where we go and do the other stuff that we've been putting off and feel slightly accomplished for doing it, but it's more better if you're able to procrastinate in a way that helps you get the things done that you're looking to get things done, which sounds a little bit weird when you think about it, but it's essentially procrastinate by distracting yourself a little bit and then bringing yourself back, and then procrastinate yourself a little bit by doing something else and then bringing yourself back. But that requires a certain level of discipline, and there are also, like I said, a wide variety of ways you can go about it. Which brings me to number 7. Come up with a plan. Any plan. This one I also need to learn. I am not good at planning. I have never been good at planning. Heck, even when it comes to like trying to figure out new YouTube channels or new creations or new stories or new anything, I'm not good at the planning. I'm not good at the scheduling. I'm not good at the listing. I'm not good at any of that. And yet I am still, as an INFP, saying come up with a plan. Any plan. When I was in high school, I knew I wanted to be a writer. I still do want to be a writer, but I have kind of neglected 10 years or more of my life, and I still haven't made that achievement come true, even though I've written quite a bit. I have not gotten to that point where I can justify in calling myself an author or a proper professional writer because of procrastination, because of other things, which is why plans are important. And the plans that you have to put in place, which is something that I have come to realize as of late, so I am very guilty of this as well, is that there are various different plans you could do. You could do it in the matter of lists, where you can feel fulfilled as much as you like check off those things on a list. You can do it in a schedule and have like, okay, at this time I'm going to do this, at this time I'm going to do this, at this time I can do this. And that's more of a detailed plan. Some of you may be better, or a lot of you may be better at doing like the detailed plans, or have someone who can help you in making those detailed plans, where you sit down, you look at your daily schedule, your weekly schedule, your monthly schedule, and you pen everything down and everything's figured out. And usually that falls on the judger side of things, not so much the perceiver side of things. So on the perceiver side of things, I would suggest just making a list and checking off the list, like a daily list. Like just write a few things that you would like to get done that day, and then just kind of check them off. And make sure you start checking some of those things off, because if you leave them alone, you're going to go back to the procrastination issue, and things can escalate far way more than you like it. So the important part of the list is you check the things off, which I also need to do more often. I have a list thing in which I could write things down and do that stuff. So this is also something that I too need to do, is write a list and check things off so that I can feel accomplished of the things that I have done on that day. Number 8, find a hobby to profit from and a hobby that's just for yourself. This is going back to what Willy Wonka has said, where essentially if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. At least I think that's from Willy Wonka. I agree with that sentiment. I would love to do my hobbies and the YouTube and the things that I love, because it doesn't feel like work. Other people may be looking at you and maybe going, hey, you are working a lot. But some of you may be like looking at that and going, you're hardly working. So it depends on the perspective, and it depends on the things that are going on that essentially can help. And the thing with the hobbies is that one, like I said, should be the one that you love and you're able to profit from, but the other one should be one that you love and you don't care whether or not you profit from it. You care about just doing it. You find enjoyment in it. It's something you can come back and relax and just do without worrying about, making any money off of it, or just like, it may be something simple as fishing. You don't care about making money off of it, you just enjoy doing it. Or it may be something simple as just gaming. You don't care about making money off of it, you just care about doing it. Or something like reading. You don't care about like doing book reviews and all of that. You just want to read and not worry about all the other stuff. You just find the enjoyment in reading itself. That is why I say you should have those two hobbies, one for profit and one for yourself. They're both for yourself, it's just one's going to help you get further ahead in life. Which brings me to number 9, sometimes you're going to do things you're going to hate. This could be a job. This could be portions of your hobby that you really hate, but in order to make it look amazing, you need to get it done. So, for example, I enjoy creating videos. I don't like editing all that much, even though I do edit and have found some enjoyment in editing and found some of the cool things in editing, even though it's not the thing that I enjoy as much as creating videos is. And especially looking at minute details, I hate that. I royally hate doing that. Even though it is a part of my functions that if it was in a higher stack, I would love the small details, but I do not like going through inventory. I do not like going through the nitty-gritty details. I do not like zoning in on something in a narrow fashion and trying to figure it out and put it into the pinpoint of accuracies. I do not like working with numbers, but sometimes, depending on your job, you're going to have to do all of that. If you're working in a retail store, you're going to have to do inventory at some point, and you're going to hate it. At some point, you're going to do something you are going to hate. And that is just another part of life. And even though you hate it, just grit your teeth, move past it, learn from it, and some of the things you'll come to enjoy a little bit. Not all of the things, but some of the things you may have less of a hatred for in the long run. And finally, number 10, remember that you were created for a purpose. As a Christian, I believe everybody was created for a purpose and is created for a purpose. I think that purpose is to love and be loved by God. Everyone has some kind of purpose in life, some kind of thing that they are here for. Even if you don't feel like you have a purpose, you have a purpose. You have a purpose for the people who care about you, whether it's friends, family, animals, whoever. There's always going to be somebody who cares about you. There's always going to be some purpose to your life. And there's always going to be a meaning to who you are as a person. With that being said, this video has been a long time coming. And if you enjoyed it, do leave a like, share, and subscribe. And hey, you could always check out one of my other videos. Until next time, bye-bye.